All right, thanks everybody for coming. Again, sorry about the room mix-up. This is an Obsidian and AI workshop. And so the structure goes like this. First, there's an explanation of what Obsidian is, why you might want to use that, and then some quick AI basics reviews, and then the integration of Obsidian and AI and what it's able to achieve for you. And that's the goal of this kind of talk. It will be hopefully quite short. And so without further ado, let's get started. The first question is, the problem that we want to focus on is, where do you go when you go write down information? When you want to write down information, where do you go? Right? And most importantly, how do you store the information that you want to write down? Because you hope that you want to use it later. So you might first, go first instance to write it down on paper. But the problem with that is, as soon as you get a lot of files, you're gonna have to store it somewhere, you have to keep it, and you have to bring it with you if you want to use it. And so that's not good, because that's basically like the notes are dying. So you might think, we can just type it on the computer because we can bring the computer everywhere. And once you do that, you'll start looking around the different applications you can write your information on. You might do Apple Notes, OneNote, Word, or Google Docs. And if you do a lot of research online, you might hear people use Notion, Mem, or Evernote, and even Logseq. But there's a problem with all of these applications when it comes to a place where you write your information. And that problem is that they all store the data in a really inaccessible format. And so if you try to open the files that store the data that you write, you're going to get one of these. Like, how do you want to open the file? Because it doesn't recognize the file outside of the application. And this is bad because essentially these applications are locking away your data inside of their application itself. And of course, the other ones are only online, so you can't even access it locally. And there's kind of like a hard exception where Logseq does allow you to access it, but it's all scrambled. And so you might wonder, why is that the case, and also why is it important? It is the case because these applications need to display your information in complex layouts, right? And because without it, you're just stuck kind of with a notepad, and there's not a lot you can do in a notepad. And so it's not necessarily malicious that these applications store in an inaccessible format. It's just to give you the features to allow you to store information effectively. And so there is a compromise, which is this markdown file format. And so if we go back, all of these have different formats that they're storing information, and Markdown is another format that you can store information. And the great thing about Markdown is that it is very accessible. It's basically just a text file with some extra features. And so I'll give a quick showcase of what Markdown is for those who are unfamiliar. And basically, it's just text. And you can render that text in the way that Markdown is defined. And you can lay it out better than just plain text. And you can actually do a lot. You can link files, you can embed images, you can even have tables and have code. And so that solves a problem where you want to have feature-rich documents, but you also want it to be accessible. And that's what Obsidian is. Obsidian is a Markdown file editor. And unlike these other apps, the files are just in Markdown, just in plain text. And so that makes it very accessible. And the reason it's important to be accessible is so that AI can access it. In addition to just a Markdown editor, Obsidian also allows you to link files together. And we'll get into a demo of what that looks like, which allows you basically to, instead of keeping separate documents, to keep your documents together in a place, and they're connected and reference each other. And so a quick Obsidian showcase. Obsidian is an application you can download. You can go on the website here. It's free, which is great. And once you download it, it will open up something like this. And as mentioned, it's very accessible. And you know this is accessible because if you go to your files, and we'll go to the new vault we created. So Obsidian has vaults. You create a vault, and it just creates a folder on your computer. And so, as you can see, we have that welcome file in that empty folder, and that's the same welcome file here. And this is just a markdown file which you can open with just any text editor. As you can see, this is just plain text, so very accessible, and you don't even need Obsidian to edit it. But we can open Obsidian to edit it, and we can type out stuff. And in fact, we can showcase creating files here. So we can do a markdown demo, and we can go and copy the markdown from before in. And as you can see, it is got like all the formatting, and it's quite a nice editor because you're able to edit it inline. In addition to that, there's also extra features that Obsidian grants Markdown to do different diagrams like mermaid diagrams, or if you do maths, you can write LaTeX. And as you can see, traditional Markdown doesn't really do that. It kind of renders weird. So Obsidian is a Markdown editor and has some extra nice features as well. And you can kind of go online to see it's very simple syntax, all the features of the Obsidian. But the main idea is that it's a very accessible place to edit files. So if we go back, as you can see, it's just created a file on my computer. And again, this is just a plain text file that you can open up. And that's the file that we created just then. Additionally, you can do those links. These are hyperlinks. So everyone's kind of seen hyperlinks before on Wikipedia, these like blue things that you can click that go to a different page. And in Obsidian, you can create those, but for files, for your files. And so we can create a link to that file that we just created, the Markdown demo. And if we click into it, we're actually able to go to it. And so that's how, if we go back to the presentation, Obsidian is able to give you this linkage between your files, and so you don't lose them. So that's pretty cool. And I'll show you some examples now on how you might use Obsidian for your work. Here is a really easy example everyone here at uni will use, which is to keep track of your uni notes, right? So you create a folder on your computer, and you can just store in these files here your notes, organize them, and prepare for exams. Then you might use it for a wiki. So if you're creating something and you need like documentation, that's another way to use it. If you're writing a paper, you might use this to write papers because you can kind of break down the thing that you're writing. And because, again, of the hyperlinks, you're able to kind of split them up and focus on each part separately. You can also kind of create notes on papers. So you can put PDFs in your vault and then reference them. And finally, you might just have one big vault for all of your personal stuff. So all the stuff that you have here. It's a great place to store information, again, because you're storing them in plain text files, and soon you'll see why that's important, because you can do a lot with these plain text files. Instead of kind of confined to the application, these plain text files can be used to do anything. You can just copy this and send it to someone, and most importantly, AI will be using that. And one final kind of ability that this unlocks is for you to move out of the folder. As you can see, all the previous vaults, we've been using folders, but because a Markdown file can have hyperlinks, a file itself can act as a folder. And so this is the same vault as this one, but it's removed all the folders, and it's placed the folders in these files. So as you can see on the side here, it's all flat, but it's still able to have structure because you create these notes which act like a file, like a more detailed folder, essentially. And so that's what Obsidian is able to do. It's a place to write information down. It's a Markdown editor. It allows you to link documents together. And also, Obsidian has ways to extend its features. In settings, you can open community plugins. And anything you want this application to do, someone else also wants that to happen. And so they've created custom plugins that basically do those functions. For example, if you want a calendar on the side that if you click the calendar for the day, it will create like a note for the day good for like personal day notes. Someone's done that already and you can install. So it's very extendable. And also if you want to publish your notes to the web, you can do that as well through their service. And if you want to sync the notes between devices, that's also possible. And so that's Obsidian. And once you start using Obsidian, you might search online and there's a lot of people who try to tell you how to use it because Obsidian firsthand is like very bare. But you don't need to go into that because it gets really complicated fast and people who start using Obsidian say they get overwhelmed, but you really don't need to get overwhelmed. Again, at the end of the day, it's just a way to edit Markdown files and for you to store information. So that's the Obsidian part. Now we're going to get to the AI part. So I'll give a quick recap of how AI works, and then after the AI part is the integration. And so everyone is using AI these days, right? In the chat, these are some of the popular AIs. And normally, in the chat interface on the web, you send a message, and the AI will reply with another message. Now, to extend the capability, you want your AI to be able to do more than just respond, right? For example, if you want to know the weather today, well, it's not in the training data, so it should probably use a tool, in which case it's a function that's in ChatGPT. The tool will respond, and then the AI will use the tool's response to respond to you. And so here is that. So what's the weather today? It's basically gone and called the weather tool to get the weather information and responded. So that's really cool, but how can we expand the capability further? So what if the AI was on your computer, right? So can you edit my report to do this? So go like, okay, if it was on your computer, it would be like, okay, let me see what files you have. So it would look at the files, and then it would read the report, edit the report, and then respond to you saying that it's edited the report on your computer. So so it is possible to do that. And these are coding CLI agents that you can install on your computer in the terminal. The terminal, which opens up a directory, and in the directory you can open up one of these AI coding terminals. So I'll give you a showcase now. So we're in the example folder, which is just a folder on my computer right here. And there's two files in here. There's like a report text file. This is a report on cheese. And so what we can do is we can open Claude. So Claude is one of the coding agents. And we can say, hi Claude, can you complete my report on cheese? And you can reference a file on your computer. So that's that report file right here. So you can say, please go do that. And this is exactly like the chat interface, except it's on your computer and it's accessing your files. So it's read that file that I add, and then it will take a second, but it will edit the file that's on your computer. And so first it will ask you for permissions. Let's accept. Let me close this. Let's accept. And now if we open up this text file, as you can see, it's edited that file on your computer. So that's really powerful because you can now do stuff on your computer and it can basically do everything that you can do because it has access to the terminal. Another great feature of some of these coding agents is its ability to browse the web for you, right? Browse your web. So let me exit out of this one, and then we'll do some commands to open Claude in Chrome mode. And what this does is it gives Claude access to your browser. So you can say, hey Claude, can you show your browser use abilities in Chrome by doing some research on cheese and updating. And so what this will do is Claude has the ability to open Chrome, and that's Chrome here using an extension, using this like protocol, and you can see it's trying to use that. So let's watch as it kind of like creates a new tab. You just saw that. And then it's going to try to navigate. Let's see. There you go. So that's Claude doing it on its own. It's navigating, and it's using your browser to do stuff that you tell it to do, right? And that's very powerful because maybe you're logged in somewhere, and you're telling Claude that's on your computer to go and navigate on your behalf, to automate tasks on your behalf. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what it said. Okay, some errors because the page is big, but you get the idea. You get the idea. And so that's AI running on your computer through one of these terminal coding agents. And now you might see why it's important for your files to be very accessible, because now you can open one of these coding agents inside of your Obsidian and get it to edit your files for you, right? So let's have a look at another one of these vaults, demo vaults. This is a project. So imagine you're doing a project with your team, and you're storing your meeting notes, your tasks, and whatnot inside of an Obsidian. And as I mentioned before, you can extend Obsidian with plugins. So one of the plugins you can get is the terminal plugin, which allows you to open the terminal inside of Obsidian itself. Let's see. So what you can do is you can have your terminal open, and you can have your Obsidian open, and then you can run Claude inside the terminal, and basically now you have like a chat assistant over your Obsidian Vault. And again, these are just files, right? Remember that Obsidian just edits files, plain text files, which AI is really good at interacting with. And so you can go like, hey Claude, what's going on in this project? And without even configuring it or doing anything custom, it knows that it's inside of an Obsidian Vault because you can list the files and see what's going on. You can read files. And you basically have now a AI assistant, but it's very integrated into what you're doing, right? Because you're storing all your information in your Obsidian. As you can see, it got a response. It's saying, hey, this is what's going on. So that's very cool, right? And so now not only can it read, but it can also edit, because again, these are just text files. So you might get it to edit files and stuff like that. But the great thing is, because these are text files, if you want to do any sorts of prompts, or if you want to start writing your own workflows with prompts, you can just keep your prompts inside of Obsidian as text files. So imagine you have like an action that you regularly take, which is summarize meeting, and you want to write a prompt for you to do that. Then you would just write a markdown file, and because it's a file, you can reuse it. So you can just add that file, and you essentially have loaded in the prompt, right? And so this is a really great way to do prompt engineering or context engineering with your AI. And again, it's just plain text files. And so let's have a look at what would happen if you continued to refine this. So you might have a lot of these actions that you take within the vault itself. So you might have summarize meeting, like review a task status. And the great thing about Obsidian is you can link files together, right? So you might have a prompt that is linking to other prompts. And soon you might want to have like consistent output. So you might have templates that you reference with these other prompts. And so you start to build a network, a graph of prompts that allow you to achieve certain actions. And so let's have a look at, I've already done it previously, but this is another Claude Code session. Can you please write a task to do a progress report for stakeholders? And we'll have a look at what it does. First, it reads the task template file, and then it reads all the other files you have in your vault, and then it creates the task. So that's this task here. You might get it to summarize a recent meeting. And here, again, because you can reference files, you can really easily engineer that context. So you can say, can you summarize this meeting for the meeting here, which is just a file that you have, again, in your vaults. And so this is the types of capabilities it unlocks, because Obsidian allows you to write text files, and then you're able to install these coding agents that edit, read files very easily. So yeah, you're able to, because you're able to write files, you're able to create prompts, and then you're able to chain prompts, and then create these templates. And with this setup, you can kind of do any type of knowledge work and get AI input and assistance. So that's the main idea here. And if you look at this, basically you have plain markdown files on your computer in a folder, right? That you can export anywhere because it's just text files. And then you can open Obsidian on top of that with certain plugins to customize the behavior. Then you can have your AI agents, such as Claude Code, point directly to those markdown files because it's not connected to the application, right? And also that unlocks the ability for you to develop custom applications that also use the markdown files present. One quick example would be to use GitHub to sync the markdown files, because again, it's just files. So I believe I got this one here. So this is a repo, which is just this vault here, right? Because again, it's just folders on your computer. As you can see, it's this folder here. And so that makes it easy for you to integrate other applications, right? And when you keep going, you might want to standardize a way to organize your prompts, right? So I've done that for myself. I've got a structure here to organize the prompts in Obsidian. And for example, I've got like a template file and instructions for what goes into that template. Then I have kind of workflows such as, create a task, which again is just instructions written in English, but because it's inside the environment of Obsidian, it knows the context, and AI can directly reference this with no further integrations. And you can kind of see, how I'm using this to create tasks, and this is for coding. And so that's pretty cool. And then because now you've standardized your artifacts, you can build even more on top of that. For example, if you want to visualize your tasks, you might create an application to read the markdown files and then visualize these files here, these files. And you might give new ability to it, like if you drag it or click a button, it will launch an agent to go to that file. And some real world use cases for my university. I got the agent to go open the browser, go to my LMS, and give me the deadlines of all my assignments, right? And this, would have taken me 20 minutes, but I just sent Claude to do it because it has access to my browser and a place to write all this down, right? Also, let's have a look. We, at Raid, we're trying to automate the club. And one of the things that you might imagine you can do is book rooms. And so this is using this system. Essentially, you have a template here to book rooms. So this is a prompt to go and open the room booking. Wait, not this one. This one, to open the room booking using Chrome, and then book a room for you. And that's what it did here. As you can see, book this room next week. So that's pretty cool. And so that's about it. To recap, you have Obsidian, which is able to write text files. And it's not like any of these other applications that's writing files that are really hard to access. And just as an example, you have to have this long instruction for AI to basically interact with your Word document, right? Whereas, again, markdown files are just plain text files that AI really easily understands. So you have Obsidian writing markdown files, and then you have these coding agents that open on top of those plain markdown files, and you're able to do a lot of stuff with that, write reusable prompts, chain prompts together, and use that to do whatever you need to do. That is it. for the talk. So if you guys have any questions, otherwise that is it. White, nice.
Question?